Present Reality Ministries, another episode in our podcast series, Speaking the Truth, as we continue to focus on issues in our country, specifically men who make a difference.
This is Ben Fields back with you. Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to come at you. Just recently we had this, and me and you have talked a lot about abortion on this podcast ad, but one of the things that happened today is that the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 and shot down Roe v. Wade, overturned it. And what that means is, just so for people that don't know, what that means is now it's left up to the states that can actually abolish and get rid of abortion. And so it's a big win. I mean, certainly this has been a political sandstorm for just years and years. And over the years, America has murdered millions of babies over the years, millions, not
over 60 million.
Yeah. And the number is tremendous. And so the idea that that's okay is pretty fascinating. And so today what we want to do is just talk a little bit about what this decision is. I'm going to bring up some states that have already banned abortion, those who have put restrictions on it. But again, it goes back to the importance of, even in today's world, we have non-Christian men or non-Christian people standing up for Christian values, while the church and Christianity is not even standing up for Christian values, which we've talked a little bit about even on our last podcast. So I'm going to kind of throw it back to you. And what are your thoughts on the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade? And why do you think this is such a big deal? Why is this so important for America?
Well, first of all, it will not stop abortions from happening. We know that abortions will continue to take place. What this does do, it removes the fact that it's legal to do so. And that if a state chooses to do so and someone wants to get an abortion bad enough, they can probably go to a state where you can get an abortion, but abortions cost money. It's a money-making deal. And we think of Planned Parenthood and people involved in this scheme. I think, Ben, it takes a bit of the blot off of America. America, that it's supposed to has called itself a Christian nation. This has been a big blot when you look at abortions done in our country compared to some other countries that would not even call themselves Christian. And I think it's also, there's a lot of pressure on these Supreme Court judges that we don't realize half of it. Threats that have probably been made on them regarding this decision. And so some people have stepped up courageously. I mean, it was 6-3. So I think I think it takes a little bit of the blot. I mean, my prayer is that the guy would bring revival in this country. And it has to start with the church, first of all. But within that, it has to be, we've been talking about men stepping up and be the leaders that they need to be. So yeah, I think it's big from the standpoint of what it does for our country and the message that it really sends out to the rest of the world as well, because there's been so much bad press, rightly so, about our country, especially the last 2 years, because of some of the ridiculous decisions that have been made. Internally as well as internationally. This is huge.
Well, one of the things that we see, I mean, you can go back in history, and for some reason, we know that people in our country want to erase history, want to forget about history. And when you do, you typically repeat history. But when you look at powers just in general that have been defeated, usually they defeat themselves from the inside out with moral issues. And one of the things that, we've talked about, the fact that America and the media, I should say the media has pushed this obsession with being a transgender person, identifying, if I'm a man, I can identify as a woman if I feel that way. But just obsessed with that issue, obsessed with killing babies, and the idea, and they try to put it in a very nice way, the idea of it's a woman's right to choose, it's her body. And to choose, let's call it what it is. They use the word abortion, but it's murder. And it's a moral issue that is absolutely tearing this country apart. And so what's funny to me, or sad to me, whatever you want to call it, is that there's people that are so upset that Roe v. Wade being overturned, meaning states now can make a decision on whether or not they want abortion to be legal, people are upset about that because what they attach it to is women's health care. And at some point in time, we'll have some other people on the podcast. I know we said that before. We'll have some women on the podcast to talk about how even abortion destroys a woman's body and what goes into that and what an abortion actually looks like. And again, I would challenge anybody who thinks abortion's okay or a woman has the right to choose is go watch an abortion and see what it's like. I have. And hear a doctor who's given an abortion, have that doctor describe what it's like giving that abortion. It's murder, cracking the baby's skull and things like that. And so what the Supreme Court has done today is overturn something that should have never been in place in the first place, given the power back to the states. Now, I will tell you, it doesn't go far enough for me. I think abortion should be outlawed. I don't think you should be able to do it in any state, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So it's never far enough for me. We need to take it further. And we need to absolutely ban it. But let me read a list here, if I could, of states who already are going to ban abortions in Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And then there's 5 more states, okay, that are going to come through as well. It's going to be Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Ohio, and Iowa. And they've already passed laws, obviously, as we know, heartbeat laws and things like that. And then you have Indiana, West Virginia, and some other places who are going to come through as well. So the ball is rolling where at least there's a challenge in place now for a woman who wants to just go kill a baby. As we know, it's used most of the time for birth control. It's not used for any other reason. And it's very, very careless. And again, you said this before, but it's the very moral fabric that is tearing this country apart. We're going to defeat ourselves in America. No one needs to defeat us. We're doing it. We're doing it financially. We're doing it through moral issues. And we've discussed a lot of this stuff, but abortion is humongous. It's huge. And again, we talk about value, right? Value of life. People being valuable. I've heard Christians say this. Well, we need more social programs if you're going to take abortion away. In other words, if somebody, we're making the decision as human beings that if somebody's not going to be born into a socially acceptable situation where they can be, quote, taken care of properly, I guess we as humans decide that now, that it's okay to have that abortion because that kid's life isn't going to be very good anyway. So why not get rid of it? Christians have said that, or pronounced Christians have said that. Not the far left is one thing or progressive is one thing, but for Christians to be saying that is outrageous. And I've heard it more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, justifying that if a kid's not going to be born into the right home or a 2-parent home or in a home that can take care of it, therefore that individual's life is not valuable, so we'll make the decision for it.
Well, I come back to the verse that I shared, that thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And we look at what's happening in our country, a major, a practice of killing is abortion. I think this is a big, big deal for the Black community, Ben, because we know why abortion was put in place to start with.
That's right.
It was to control the Black population. And so, as we've talked about the racial issue, we talked about these called people that really care about the Black community as they continue to kill each other. And this is kind of a starting point when a child can't even come into the world and stay. And you never know what their potential will be. And we were going to talk about generations, Dan. I want to bring that in a little bit as we dialogue a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's a big. God has to be pleased with us. At least America has made a decision that's in line with what he values, and that is human life. And so I think, to me, I think it brings pleasure to God. Now, and we understand at the same time, people are going to fight this thing as best they can. That's where we're at. People, even in the political realm, especially those in the administration right now, they must be cringing that this has been passed. And I wouldn't want to be a Supreme Court justice right now because I'm sure threats are being made on their life as a result of this decision.
Well, and again, you made the point earlier that, the decisions made on legal issues, right? The Constitution, things like that. Well, and one of the things I talk a lot about is our laws. What are our laws based on? I remember taking criminal justice classes, and one of the things you learn, the individual teaching these classes, and I don't believe anyway was a believer, but one of the things they talked about in this criminal justice course is the fact that laws are based on biblical values. And when you look at laws in our country, they're based on that. And Roe v. Wade had no place anyway to even be put in place in the first place. It's just completely outrageous. And I know we learn more things as we go through life. The science gets better and medical things get better and everything else, but it's crystal clear. It's crystal clear that at conception, a baby is a baby and a human is a human. And so I think it's when, people make the argument to me, they'll say, well, if a baby at conception can't live on its own, well, a baby just born can't live on its own either. So that's a stupid concept. If you leave the baby in the crib, the baby's not going to get out and feed itself. These people are ignorant. They say stupid stuff all the time and their arguments are easily defeatable. Well, of course, a baby in a womb can't survive on its own if it comes out of the womb too early. There's medical things that happen to help that baby survive. And then when the baby comes out, that's why parents or a mother takes care of that baby. There's things that go into that. A 5-year-old wouldn't be able to survive by themselves for very long. These are stupid people saying stupid things, but they're also evil people. And there is evil versus good, and there's right and wrong. And we have to stop pretending as Christians that this ability that we want to connect with people is fine, but telling people what's wrong and right, them disliking me somehow or them not liking it is problematic. Again, you made the point. The war has just begun on this thing. Now it's game on all day long. And, it's one of those things where every attorney and their mother in this world is going to be suing this and suing that and, everything else. And then, going to the highest court in the land. In these states, it's going to happen. To your point, there's obviously going to be very left-wing states that will allow abortions to take place. Obviously, I read the list of states that have already banned abortion and those who will follow suit very soon. And that's exactly the way it should be. One of the things I said early on, when the 3 Supreme Court nominees, and we talk about Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, one of the things I talked about is what's going to happen is this. Now, I will tell you, I did not think they would overturn Roe v. Wade as a Christian. It was far-fetched. I didn't think it would ever happen because I didn't think they had the guts to do it. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about that. But let me say this. One of the things I said, what they were going to do, and essentially this is what they've done by overturning Roe v. Wade, is they were going to give the cases, they were going to allow states to make decisions for themselves on abortion. That's why the Supreme Court thing was a big deal. That's why they went after guys like Kavanaugh like they did. They were more gentle, obviously, with Amy Coney Barrett, but that's why that fight was that fight. And that was the case. And I guess as Christians, and there's tougher non-Christians out there who stand for that's why as Christians, do you have the courage and the guts to stand up and fight back against this pure evil? I mean, this is what we call spiritual warfare. And I haven't seen a lot that have. I've seen a lot of non-Christians that have, but I haven't seen a lot of Christians really putting it out there for themselves. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, our focus obviously has been on men making a difference. And we talked last time about Micaiah and his willingness to stand up for the truth. Sometimes the truth, the truth isn't clear, but there are certain times when the truth is clear. In this issue of abortion, it is clear. But what are we willing to do to stand up for what is right and to preserve what is right? And I think sometimes I agree, Christians are too nice. They confuse kindness and love with niceness. And there's a place, really stand courageously, whatever the cost. For some people, they've been let off the hook now because the Supreme Court has made this decision. But I think that to me, it's just, there's 60 million babies. We will never know what their potential was. Right. Never.
No. And
it's trickled down its impact on the economy because all those people have never grown up and gone to work, gotten jobs. And Larry Burkett, an economist years ago, said we were going to pay an awful price economically for abortions that happen in our society. And it's so true. But this, at least, it opens the door for more babies to live and more babies to make a positive difference. Because, we've heard stories of people whose parents decided not to abort them, and they've been people that have made a positive difference in our society. And so, yeah, this is a big one.
We talk about value. Me and you certainly have talked a lot about racial injustice on this program. And one of the things I would just continue to follow up with, and you mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again, and we're going to just do the full circle here of value. Who decides whose life is valuable and who's not? And again, God, everyone's life is valuable in the eyes of God, no matter what. The richest person in the world to the poorest person in the world, the most handicapped person in the world to, the most athletic person in the world. God, they're all valuable to God, and not to society necessarily. We understand that, but the way God views that is a lot different. We talk about numbers. The first thing I'm going to say is I would encourage anybody out there who thinks abortion is a good idea to talk to a woman who's had an abortion. That's the first thing. People always say, well, males don't need to be talking about this. Fine. All right. I disagree with that, but talk to a woman who's had an abortion. See what it's done to her physically and emotionally. Talk to her. Have a conversation with her. I've had more than one, and that's a tough conversation to listen to and have. There's not much to say after that. They give their testimony when it's connected to that. It's very heartbreaking. It's something that, thankfully I've never had to go through. It's just very heartbreaking. The second thing is, when we talk about value of life, is we talk about minority communities, and we've talked about a lot about minority communities because the lies being told of racial injustice. We've talked a lot about crime in poor communities and poor inner cities, especially minority communities. And the fact that politicians, police, people in general don't value life. They act like they do. They say it out loud, but there's no action behind it. And so what you have is young Black males between the age 15 and 25 slaughtering each other in these Black communities. So that essentially takes care of the Black man. The Black man we don't have to worry about being a threat in any way, shape, or form. And by that, I mean fatherless homes, babies growing up without dads around or any kind of father figure. The politicians have essentially taken care of that. And then when you take police out of those communities or lack of policing, right, those people don't feel valued. So if you don't feel valued, you're not going to value anything else in life. So essentially, they have eliminated or tried to eliminate the Black male in our society, and they've been very effective at it. The second thing is, if Black females make about 7% of the population, they make up about 7% of the population, and they account for 51% or a little more than that of abortions in our country. Consider that for a minute. So on its face, yes, more white women have abortions than Black women, but we're talking about percentages here, percentage-wise. And again, as we know, Planned Parenthood was started to eliminate and control the Black population. And so when we look full circle here, it just goes back to what is value? Do you feel valuable? How do we make people feel valuable? And you do that by protecting people, number one, and giving people an opportunity to make the most of who they are and what they are. And it's so sad to see minority communities suffering at the hands of lies, politicians, lack of policing, everything else in our country, and buying into the narrative that they're a victim or they're treated unfairly because it simply isn't true. And so it's really kind of sad, but I think it's so important today to just recognize how big a deal, it doesn't go far enough, but how big a deal Roe v. Wade is being overturned. And it gives people in certain states, it's going to give a lot of babies in certain states an opportunity to live that wouldn't normally have that opportunity to live. And Mom made the point earlier when I talked to her is Planned Parenthood is going to leave some of these states because they can't make any more money, because it's all about money and nothing else.
Yeah, it is. It is, follow the money with so many of the things that are going on in our society. The other thing that happens is that there is big money behind this, even like Bill Gates. He's a population control freak.
Yeah.
He's also a climate change freak.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that are supporting other causes that are bad for our country support abortion. And
Mhm.
so, whether it's the false message regarding racism, um, CRT, whatever it might be, a lot of those same people have big bucks that are supporting some of this. This is a blow for them as well.
Yep. It is.
I
I mean, yes,
yeah,
it is. Again, it's defeated. It's defeated. Now, again, they'll come back. They're going to throw money at it. The fight is not over by any stretch of the imagination. As I said, the war is on. The war of supporting life and protecting life is on, and the war of the murder of over 60 million babies in our country, pushing back against that is on, and it's just incredible. And I'm going to tell you, I really believe this. I know you know this. There's been a lot of Christians who are praying, and there's been a lot of people praying, and there has been people fighting back on this stuff, even in the shadows sometimes, which is sometimes where it's done. It doesn't always have to be on the front news of the newspaper, right?
yeah,
There's a lot of people who are doing a lot of effective things that we don't know about. They're not posting on social media. They're not, look at me, everybody, look at me, everybody. They're just doing what God has called them to do. And we're really thankful for those people, because I'm telling you, this is what it's about. It's spiritual warfare. And look, in spiritual warfare, God uses politicians. God raises up Supreme Court justices. You've talked about this. You talked about this all the time. And that's what it's about. I'm going to give you the last word on this today, and then we'll shut it down.
yeah. I just think generational, this is huge. And because of life that will come to be, that has been squelched out, and it's going to impact our society in a lot of different ways. But yeah, the war has just started. I mean, these people are ready to fight this. They were expecting it to come, and it did come. So hopefully God is smiling down on our country a little bit today because of this, in the midst of all the foolish things that have been going on. And hopefully this will send a positive message to the rest of the world from a nation that claims to be a Christian nation.
Yeah. Amen. Well, let's leave it there today. Thanks for joining us. You can join us at realityministriesllc.org, and there you can join us on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great day.